Alright, next up is BrokenCRJ. He did Wyeast 1968 London ESB Ale. A very good cask conditioned ale strain. This extremely flocculent yeast produces distinctly malty beers. Attenuation levels are typically less than most other yeast strains, which results in a slightly sweeter finish. Ales produced with this strain tend to be fruity, increasingly so with higher fermentation temperatures of 70 to 74 Fahrenheit. A thorough diacetyl rest is recommended after fermentation is complete. Interesting. Bright beers are easily achieved within days without any filtration. Here we go. Thanks, BrokenCRJ, for participating in this contest and sending me some beer. Pours a really creamy already, it seems. Color is slightly lighter than some of the others, kind of an orange color. Really cloudy, although I think I disturbed a lot of the sediment in this one. This one's really cloudy, it's almost like a dark orange, deep amber orange, half finger head, real pillowy, pretty much like the others. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, you might get some dark fruit esters in that one, maybe. That's what I'm getting, other than malt, breadiness, caramel. But I think that there is like a plum type of dark fruit in that. I think that's how I would describe that. Cheers, and may your CRJ be fixed one day. Very nice, creamy. A lot of bitterness in this one, almost throughout the entire, from the front all the way to the back. When that plum ester is in there, it melds really well with the malts, so it might be a little bit hard to pick out, but I think it's there. Almost for a second there I want to say that I got a little barnhouse-ish kind of aroma, but that might be my imagination, because I can't smell it again. Really good mouthfeel, and which is a direct result of the yeast not attenuating as much as a lot of the other yeasts. That's really apparent in this yeast. Definitely not as attenuative. And you do get a little bit of a dark fruit ester in it. Not much. The malt flavor is really there because the attenuation isn't very high. So you get a lot of the malt flavor in this beer, and the bitterness is just enough to balance it out. So the recipe worked out very well for this yeast. A little bit of a sweet finish on it, and a little bit of a sweeter beer than the others so far. Not by much. It's more apparent in the mouthfeel than in, tasting sweetness. It does have a sweeter finish as well. Really, really good. I like that. It's very enjoyable if you like malty beers. This is a good yeast for that. Cheers. Time for another HokieHomebrew tasting. Today is Deezy23. You use WLP007 dry English ale yeast. This yeast is clean, highly flocculent, and highly attenuative. This yeast is similar to WLP002 in flavor profile, but is 10% more attenuative. This eliminates the residual sweetness and makes the yeast well suited for high gravity ales. It also reaches terminal gravity quickly. 80% attenuation will be reached even with 10% ABV beers. So it sounds like this one is a real high attenuator. Supposed to ferment fairly cleanly. Let's get it open. Thanks, Deezy, for participating in the experiment. It kind of pours light orange like the others, a little on the cloudy side, just like the others. Really nice pillowy head forming there as we give it a nice, fairly aggressive pour. Not much sediment. This one is definitely a little lighter in color than some of the others. Kind of like a hazy, muddy orange. Nice pillowy head there, half finger head. Let's get the aroma. Smell mostly a little bit of malt, maybe a little bit of hops in there. A little bit of spiciness from the malt, or I mean from the hops. Maybe a little bit of vanilla from the wheat. Kind of that soft, weedy aroma. Not really getting a lot of esters. Pretty clean smell. Mostly what seems to come through though is the wheat, I think. A little bit of the caramel sweetness in there. Maybe a little bit of biscuity from the Maris Otter. Cheers. Thanks, Deezy23. It's a little bit clean. A little bit of a, want to say a residual sweetness, but that's not a sugary kind of sweetness. The front, it's really clean. Just a really light bitterness to it, not much bitterness. In the end, you get a really nice malty toastiness. Really nice finish on this beer. There might be a little bit of a dark fruit ester in there. Kind of hard to pick it out. Maybe a slight pear or something like that. Maybe not a dark fruit. Mostly it's really clean. A little bit of bitterness up in the middle of the tongue maybe. Finishes with really nice malty, kind of toasty flavors. Not getting any alcohol in this. I'm not really tasting high attenuation or anything like that. Maybe as it warms up, maybe I'll taste a little bit of alcohol in there. He doesn't have any information as far as original gravity and final gravity, so don't know what the alcohol is in this beer. It would be interesting to see if it did actually attenuate a little higher than some of the other strains. I'm going to keep sipping on this, and for now this is a really good beer. We'll see if I get anything more out of it. I'll turn the camera back on and record my thoughts. Cheers. So really quickly on Deezy23, the WLP007, I'm sorry, 007. It's mostly really clean, but it does have lingering ester profile there, lingering in the aftertaste. Just wanted to say that the mouthfeel is about medium, light to medium, but the carbonation is spot on, making this a really good drink. Cheers. Thanks again, Deezy23. Steve James, bye! Next up we have Hamp Covington. He is one of Hokie's friends. He's the older gentleman that was in Hokie's videos doing the reviews. Hokie went over to his house and they both brewed their ESBs on his system. He used White Lab 022 Essex Ale. This Essex Ale yeast, flavorful British style yeast, drier finish than many British ale yeast, produces slightly fruity and bready character. Good top fermenting yeast strain, as well as suited for top cropping collecting. This yeast is well suited for classic British miles, pale ales, bitters, and stouts. Does not flocculate as well as WLP 002 and WLP 005. So thanks, Hamp, for being involved in this and appearing on video in Hokie's videos and tasting ours. Let's get this open. Really loud hiss on this one. Pour here. Pouring a really nice head. A lot clearer than most of them. Should have gave it a little gentler pour. Most of these have not needed a gentle pour, so I've been pouring them aggressively, as I did with this one. It's got a light orange color, light copper, fairly clear. Like I said, a lot clearer than the others. Really pillowy head. I did let it warm up a little bit, but it seems to be about the right temperature. Let's get the aroma. Definitely some esters in there. Oh, that's interesting. At first I was going to say cidery, but that's not it. It's almost a hop aroma. But he didn't use any hops. Maybe not a hop aroma, but maybe kind of a saison sort of aroma. It's kind of got a spicy note to it, a little bit citrusy. Almost like a farmhouse ale a little bit. Not getting a lot of malts yet, but the head's pretty thick on there, so probably getting mostly just the fruitiness from the fruity esters from the yeast. It's got that that astringent farmhouse aroma to it. Cheers. The aroma follows the flavor. It's got that dry finish that a lot of the saisons do. Definitely more carbonated. I think that as the yeast developed in this bottle, I think it ate more of the sugars, and I think it carbonated up from what it was maybe a month ago. That's my theory. Hokie, maybe you can comment below and make a comment on that. This seems more carbonated than the others, but also drier than the others. Quite a bit drier than the others. Not a whole lot of mouthfeel to it. Flavor-wise, you do get saison-like esters. How would you say that? A little bit of citrus, a little bit of even maybe dark fruits. There's a light malt breadiness to it. Bitterness is up front, and then gone off the from the mid to the end of the palate. It's like drinking a malty saison. is what this yeast is like. I did have this one for about a month at room temperature before chilling it for about a week. So that let the yeast kind of actively do their thing a little bit longer in this beer. Getting down towards the end of the brews. Yeah, really dry, a little bit thinner than the others, a little bit of a malt sweetness, but not much. Mostly it's got that kind of spicy yeast character to it. Spicy, slightly fruity, maybe yeast character to it. Very interesting yeast. I don't think I would brew it in an ESB. It hasn't been my favorite yeast so far. But I am going to enjoy this beer though. It's definitely a nice drinking beer. A little carbonated, but really good. So again, Hamp, thanks. Really nice beer. Very, very interesting compared to the others. Very unique compared to the others. And I'm going to enjoy this. Cheers. Next up is one I've been waiting for from Hockyplr. He used a London ale yeast. Dry malty ale yeast provides a complex oaky yeast character to your beer. Hot bitterness comes through well. This yeast is well suited for classic British pale ales, bitters, and stouts. Does not flocculate as much as WLP-002, WLP-005. I think I accidentally attributed the London ale yeast to somebody else, Bernie Kewen. I made that correction in the video, hopefully. This is the actual London ale yeast. Of course, Hockyplr didn't label his bottle, so I could be totally wrong. Good job, Hockyplr. Alright, I'm just kidding. Thanks, Hockyplr, for sending me this beer. And for, well, for being in the experiment. I didn't enjoy your V-Box stout that I had. I haven't drank the second one yet. May contain awesome. I have no doubt that awesome is an extra ingredient that Hockyplr snuck into this. Really low carbonation, colors on the lighter side with a lot of the others. I got a little sediment in the pour, so you know it's going to be cloudy. You know, one finger ahead. That's dissipating pretty quick, but lingering on the sides of the glass. Got a pretty good temperature here. Let it warm up a little bit. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, there's a dark fruit in there, I want to say. A dark fruit ester, maybe also maybe more of a light fruit ester as well. Both of them I'm getting. At first I got the dark, and I'm getting a light, like pear. Maybe cherry or something like that. On the dark fruit end of it. That's really coming out quite well in this beer. Not getting a lot of hops or maltiness, but I am getting that ester in the aroma, which is very cool because I'm preferring the estery yeast so far in this experiment. Cheers. Kind of has a sweet finish a little bit, dry up front. And you get more breadiness, more maltiness in the flavor, but those yeast esters are still there. I'd categorize this one on the like a moderate ester profile. Does have kind of a really light dark fruit ester to it. Not quite dark, more of a medium fruit. Really nice low carbonation and mouthfeel. medium mouthfeel. But it does finish a little bit on the sweeter side. It's not as sweet as BrokenCRJ's. His was a really low attenuating yeast. I think you nailed the carbonation on this, Hockyplr. Perfect level of carbonation. But yeah, as far as the yeast goes, it's relatively clean. Not as estery as some of the others, like SJ Pours or Hokies or Puka NCs. It's a little cleaner than those, but it's not as clean as like the Scottish ales and some of the maltier profiled yeasts. Does have that little like medium fruit ester in it. So final thoughts on the 013 from White Labs. Does have a kind of a muted oaky wood ester in there. Maybe not quite a fruity ester. Not a lot of bitterness at all in this beer, so it might also kind of kick down the IBUs. I did get some yeast sediment in there. If there's any yeast, sometimes IBUs will be more at the bottom of the bottle than at the other parts, and so you know, I think that the yeast does maybe mute the hop character, the bitterness of the hops a little bit. Definitely giving it a more malty forwardness along with that oaky ester a little bit. So cheers. Thanks, Hockyplr.